Party people, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I am joined by Tim Devine for a playthrough of his new game, Sea Epilogues. Inspired by the North Sea board game series, Sea Epilogues is a game of Viking warriors trying to survive in a harsh, unknown land where danger lurks around every corner. Sea Epilogues is currently on Kickstarter. You can find a link to that in the show notes. Click that, back it. It's a great game, and I can't wait for you to hear our playthrough of it. For that reason, and because I have a cold and I'm losing my voice a little bit, let's throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me.
Thanks, future me. This week, I am sitting down with Tim Devine. Tim, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm really excited. So real quick, at the top of the show, why don't you let the audience at home know about anything you're working on, any projects you might want them to know about?
So my wife and I, we started Dice Up Games to start getting our games out there, and her name's Kristen. And we are working on our first big game to be published through Kickstarter with Garfield Games. And so it's based on the North Sea series, Shipwrights of the North Sea, Raiders of the North Sea, and Explorers of the North Sea that were very successful. So Kristen and I we designed a role-playing system, and Garfield Games is going to be using that system to make in North Sea Epilogues a role-playing game. So basically, we're taking this series and giving it sort of a bookend, this epilogues, and
sure.
It's the idea is you've sailed the North Sea in shipwrights, you've raided the North Sea in raiders, you've explored the North Sea, and now you can journey deeper into the game world, and you can forge your own epic sagas in the North Sea epilogues.
That's super cool. Like, that's such a cool approach. I love the idea of taking that from the board game space into like role-playing games. Like, that's such a cool idea, and I'm excited to play it. I'm really hype.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I've been a long-time listener of the show and never thought that I'd actually be talking to you on it. So I'm very excited.
I'm really hyped. I'm so excited. So we're playing North Sea Epilogues this week. So why don't you give me a brief overview of the world of the North Seas? Introduce us to the world that we're going to be playing in this week.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, the North Sea Epilogues, again, the whole board game series is it's not historical fiction. Of course, it's basically taking so much influence from Norse culture and history, but it's not. There's no like set world where you're following a timeline that actually happened.
Sure.
It's the Viking Age. And you can sort of approach it from kind of any real touchstones that you might have. So some people approach it in a more like kind of fantastical idea of like a mythology and maybe a little bit more fantasy, a little bit less realism. But you could also go full realism if you want, like the Vikings TV series on the History Channel and things like that. So it's really kind of open to interpretation, but it allows you to sort of a lot of the people that play these board games, if you haven't seen the artwork on it, the Miko is the artist, and he's done the artwork for the whole series, including the book that we're working on. It's just, he's amazing. And you can kind of get an idea from these pictures, these illustrations, what the world looks like to you. And then now you're able to actually go in and make your own stories with it instead of, you play a board game and it's like you have this awesome experience. And it's got the rule structure. The role-playing game is going to let you take that into the next sort of level of storytelling.
I'm really excited. This is going to be so much fun. So, all right. With all that in mind, I'll introduce my character. I know you've got some questions ready to sort of flesh out the specific space that we're playing in, and then we'll dive into the adventure itself.
Sounds great.
I am playing Torvi. She is a tracker. She, hunts things, follows things. Nothing escapes her vision, mostly, I think. There was an incident that has not left her mind. But generally, if you want something found, whether it be human-sized, small, or massive, she's the person who can find it. She is focused to a fault, I would describe it as. She's the kind of person that, like, gets an idea in her head or gets a mission or objective or decides I'm going to do X, and then just like everything else just falls by the wayside, and you're like, and it kind of, she's like, well, I've got to do this thing. Like, nothing matters to me until until this thing that I'm doing right now is complete. It makes her an excellent tracker because she can like tune out all of the distractions and all of the other things around her. But it also kind of makes her a little bit isolated from people. But as I mentioned, something happened. Something happened that we'll talk a little bit about and kind of flesh out the details of. But she failed, and now she has to kind of regain her place, her honor. And that's her in a nutshell, at least at the start of her story.
Yeah, and honor is a very, very big thing in Norse culture, and so needing to regain your honor is a pretty big motivator.
Yeah.
So that we'll see if Torvi can achieve that or head on her way to achieve that. So should we jump right into the?
Yeah. Let's dive in. I like I said, I know you've got some questions to flesh things out, and then you've got an adventure planned, and so let's dive in.
Yeah. So, okay, and feel free to take this anywhere you want to go. Doesn't have to, it's sort of just a adventure prompt, a skeleton.
Sure.
And the game itself will have several of these within the main book. We've got some prompts by the publisher, by Kristen and myself. We'll have a campaign setting, and we also have a couple really cool contributors. We're super excited to be working with people whose names we've known for a while and whose work we followed, and we're so excited to actually have them as part of the team for this. So that's exciting to me personally. So in this case, we'll say that I'll go through just the setting, like the kind of a setup for you, and then ask you a couple questions based on that setup, and then we'll jump right in.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we'll say that. So this is going to be during the winter. And the winter is like half the year in this setting. And it's cold, it's dark at night. And at the moment, you find yourself far from home. And you're far from home because of an incident that occurred. And you were sent to an outpost to be part of sort of a watch to the furthest southern outpost in your settlement. The outpost is on a giant rocky cliffside overlooking this strait of water, this large river that flows in. It's one of the main inlets into your settlement, and also one of the things that you have to patrol or guard. Someone needs to be watching for enemy ships. Now, in the dead of winter, not likely going to happen, but you always, you never know. It's not expected,
things can always happen. That's the one thing that we've kind of learned in our time here. The one thing we've learned is to never rest on, well, it wouldn't make sense for something to happen right now, would it? Like, we've learned far too well that is rarely the case. Our senses can easily, not even our senses, our conceptions can rarely be correct in a place like this.
Totally, yes, and your position here is one that you're dealing with in your own way, but one of the things kind of that's been happening is, since you're the newest addition to the watch, not a person who's been assigned, who is assigned here for more positive reasons or volunteer reasons, you haven't been treated with the most respect. You were always expecting some level of hazing or, warrior, kind of banter type stuff. But this has been particularly harsh. And there's been one person sort of leading the charge against you in this regard. We'll get to them in a moment. Just a few more bits to know about this setting to get it kind of you a good picture of where you're going to be playing this out. Again, the outpost is on a cliffside overlooking the river, so it's pretty high up in the mountains, and there is a long stretch of woods between you and the topmost part of this cliff. Probably about a good 10-minute hike to get up there through the woods. There's a trail, like a road that's off to the side of the woods that you could get there quicker, but the woods is sort of like where you would go. But at the top of this cliffside, or the sort of peak of this area, is a giant pyre of wood, and it's stacked very large blocks. It's meant to be lit in times of danger where you're trying to alert the clan that something is coming, and that's the main purpose of the watch, is to light that pyre if something bad happens. So that's kind of where you're at right now. Couple questions. The first is, who do you miss most back home in the settlement?
I miss my... I'm going to say I miss my partners. We'll call them Liliana and Petrana. The three of us are... I miss them. They were the thing that I know that I can get in my head and about a target. But they were the thing that brought me home. And I'm not home without them. And I miss them. And I'm here by, like, all I have now is to be on the mission, but I don't even really have a mission. Just a watch. So, just by myself now.
That must have made it even harder having to leave them.
Yep.
What was the mistake that got you sent to this outpost to serve as part of the watch? And I leave this before you answer though. I'll give you this. You can reveal this mistake at any point during this adventure if you don't choose to reveal it now.
I think I'm a tracker, and I am trusted to track things. I am trusted to not let something get away. And there was something that struck our clan. Something big and dangerous and deadly. And I couldn't track it. I gave it my best. I ran for days through the woods and it just I never caught it. I found sign after sign of its presence. I don't even know what it is. It was just too fast and too hard to catch. I caught signs of its trail, but it just seemed to be forever 2 steps ahead of me and then 5 steps ahead of me and then gone. I failed at my duty, the thing that I was trusted with by my clan. I failed it. And now I'm here. Because I can't track. I couldn't track. When it mattered, I failed. I fell short. So why should I be on the path? Why should I be on the hunt?
So this burden, the burden is even heavier since reaching the watch because of how you've been, haven't been accepted. So outcast in your mind, outcast physically by the other members of the watch. And also mentioning, just a side note, mentioning the beast that you couldn't know. This setting is based on some form of realism in that there's no like magic, but there is a lot of superstition in the North Sea, and you will make sense of things your own way. Just because you don't have magic doesn't mean you don't believe there is magic, and doesn't mean you don't believe there are monsters.
Yeah.
So that's perfect that this beast, this thing that you didn't, it could have been anything. It could have been sent by the gods. You have no idea. And then who was a childhood friend that you lost touch with, in the last few years, and you're not sure where they ended up. They were more of a warrior type, but who was this childhood friend?
Carvin. Carvin was. We came up together. We trained together. We sparred together. We hunted together, and then he went off and became a warrior, and I went off and became a tracker. And it wasn't a malicious growing apart. It's just different paths, different lives, But like, were I to see him again, I'd probably smile. I think. I would hope. We were on good terms when we parted. We just parted in very different directions. The river forked. He took one fork and I took the other.
Excellent. And the smile that you definitely would have shared, let's say about a week ago, is when you reached this outpost. That smile may have turned a bit to a frown My last question for you is, how has your former friend been making your life difficult since reaching the outpost?
He's been refusing to... He has been the one that has refused to, like, give me any sort of responsibility. You know, my own self-doubt aside, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty good at this. But everything I try to do, somebody else gets picked. Somebody else gets handed off. And it just, no matter what I do, I can't seem to... And I can't tell if it's malicious because, you know, I'm the newest person here. I don't know. I've been, you know, there are people who have been here a lot longer, but it's starting to feel that way. You know, it's, if it were once or twice, like, it would be one thing, but it's starting to feel, a pattern is starting to emerge.
Awesome. Okay. And do you have that? So I sent you just a couple images of like kind of an outpost.
I do indeed.
Awesome. And so it's just to point out, it doesn't have to look exactly like that. It's just if I'm talking about something, it helps us be on the same page visually. But one of the things that you're sort of the one who's been, you know, when there needs to be water fetched, you're the one who is thrown the bucket. And when everyone is sharing, you know, Merry Mitten stories in the center of the outpost when they're feasting at night, you find yourself alone on the outskirts a little bit. And when it comes time to sleep, which is you know, you don't have sets, you're sleeping at different times. At the moment, you're going to find yourself up in one of these towers. And so it's like, you know, 2 stories up in a tower overlooking the rear side of the forest, which happens to be facing north, which is up towards, if you were to go straight north from where you are now through the woods, that's where the pyre is, the beacon. And you find yourself up there, wrapped. You've had a hard day. You've had to take 3 trips down to the river, which is it's hours of hiking through harsh wintry terrain, carrying back water. You're tired, and you're up in the outpost tower. No one else is there. It's just you, your shield next to you, your round shield leaning next to you on the wall, the wooden wall, and your spear and your axe. And that's all the company you have. And we'll say that you fell into a deep sleep after the long day, but you're about to be woken. So you're awoken by the sounds of battle. The clanging is unmistakable. And you also know that if there is clanging of metal and splintering of shields, that means that an enemy is inside the walls already.
Mm-hmm.
So you're woken with this realization, and the realization that an enemy has overtaken the outpost and the killing has already begun.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we just open it from there? And how does Torvi deal with the situation?
Torvi immediately, she considers lighting the pyre and like looks, but thinks if they're already here, like, so my question about the pyre is, we're an outpost and presumably there are other clans further away that are watching for this pyre, or is the pyre for the people inside the fort?
Sure. Yeah. If you light it, you could say like that whole like Lord of the Rings thing where one pyre lights and then another might light and then it reaches the settlement, and it's because you're the furthest south, there might not be a direct line of sight with the settlement.
Yeah. So I think that she probably lights the pyre she probably immediately like hops to her feet, grabs like a torch, lights the pyre.
Oh, and then you'd have to get, there's the woods between you and the pyre.
Oh, gotcha.
Sorry.
Okay, then
I'm not going to make it that easy for you.
Yeah, sure. I think that if there's already, in that case, I could light the pyre, but it would be more, you know, that I could get there faster than any warrior. I mean, I know these woods better than anybody. And if there's already fighting in the gates, then what good is calling for reinforcements? We'll all be dead by the time they get here. If I can't get to the pyre, I'd have to just get back to the outpost and try and fix this myself.
Sure. Yeah. The settlement, when the pyre is lit and the settlement is notified, you feel confident that they'd be able to defend themselves a heck of a lot better than being raided at night during the winter. So your thought is more towards if the outpost is overrun, so be it. Your duty as part of the watch is to light the beacon.
Yeah, that way. I think it might. How far am I? Am I kind of equidistant from the outpost and the pyre?
You mean the settlement?
Yeah.
No, the settlement's much farther away.
But I'm sorry. I'm trying to place myself.
Oh yeah.
Am I in the outpost?
No, let's take a moment and clarify. This outpost, the image that you're looking at, that kind of thing, is sitting on the side of a cliff.
Yeah.
Overlooking the river that leads to your settlement. So it's pretty far away from your settlement. You could probably see it in the distance during the daytime. You might be able to see torches if they're lit at night from your settlement, but it's very far away. And the only way that anyone would be able to get word to the settlement that any danger was coming is if one of the outposts lights their beacon. And your outpost at the moment is being overrun. And the outpost only stores soldiers, basically, warriors that are there specifically to protect the borders of your settlement.
Yeah. Then in that case, yeah, absolutely. In that case, if they're soldiers, they can do their thing. My thing is moving through spaces quickly and tracking and hunting. I'm better served lighting that pyre than running in and trying to be a hero.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So at the moment, you find yourself probably a little too high to jump without there being physical ramifications. But you have a ladder that leads down to the ramparts.
And I think I probably do that slide down like a firefighter slide down the ladder.
Totally, yeah.
I'm definitely not just climbing that ladder.
Okay. And are you bringing all three of your kind of your gear, your shield, spear, and hand-axe?
I gear up. I put the shield on my back. I strap the axe to my belt. I put the shield on my back, and I just grab the railings of the ladder and just slide down.
Awesome.
Hoping I don't get too many splinters.
So, as you hit the ground, so you can see that think of them as sort of it's a room basically. So it's a wooden square above the ramparts, and then when you get to the rampart, it's an enclosed area with an opening on either side, to your left and right when you turn around, and you hear the battle is just raging in probably along some of the ramparts and definitely in the center. But the enemy must have entered through the front because they're not directly in front of you in this room. But a shadowy figure is running through the door to your left and into the room that you're in. It doesn't look like they notice you or care about you at all when they run through the opening. They might be, you're not 100% sure if they're running to or from something.
I'm going to wait until I'm gonna if they don't see me, I'm gonna crouch down into a shadow, wait for them to be just behind, or just wait till I'm just behind them, catch them at their blind side, tackle them, and then figure out if this is an invader or an ally. Either way, I need them.
Okay.
Either way, I need them in a position where I can talk to them.
Okay, got it. So I'm going to give you a challenge here.
All right.
What you're the sort of situation you're dealing with is you get into a position you're going to want to be kind of secretive or hiding as this person runs through. Another figure, larger, much more kind of slower moving, very stoic, but you're only seeing kind of a silhouette at this point from the torchlight from the outside. Takes a few steps in after, and you can tell now that the person who ran in is badly injured, and they kind of collapse to the ground. The challenge is this: you remain hidden, or try to overcome what's the situation going on, which is this enemy. You don't know anybody that's part of the watch that's as large as this person standing in this doorway.
Well, then in that moment, the second I see the smaller figure collapse, I say, well, there goes my confrontation plan. And I grab my hand axe. I ready my shield and grab my hand axe, and I just bum rush him.
The one in the doorway?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Okay. So this is it's the challenge is that you're trying to overcome an opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to give me something, whatever skill you think is the most relevant to overcoming this opponent. So this system is very like kind of fluid in the sense that players have a lot of interpretation over how an action plays out, and there isn't a single skill that's always the one skill you're supposed to use for an action. There's many different ways to overcome an obstacle, and you get to kind of choose how you think yours is going to look. And once you know what that skill is, also then take a look at your story elements, and if any of your story elements sort of fit this, and would you sort of phrase it like this, like, I'm going to use this approach, which is the skill, and I feel like my blank is going to really be a factor in this.
Yeah.
And that helps me as the GM, because GMs in this system do not roll against players. They just set a challenge level a difficulty level for the challenge. And when players are giving their story elements, it's the GM is using that as a cue to say, oh, I'm reducing this for you.
Mm-hmm.
So never is there a situation where one challenge is the same for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this challenge that you're about to face doesn't have a DL of 15 for everybody. It's always different depending on how you're approaching it, making it difficult or easier for yourself, and what story elements you're using.
Sure. So I think this might.
And one more point, just really quick. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner of your character sheet, or here we call them hero sheets because you're heroes. Your hero sheet, you have a box called Grit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what Grit is it's a resource that you could use when you're rolling for an action to, if you use two Grit, you can reduce the difficulty level by another one level, and that's called surging.
Mm-hmm.
And so you basically say, like, I'm going to dig deep. This is adrenaline or something, and I'm going to put everything I have into this. Mm-hmm. Another thing that you can use Grit for is to reduce your strain. And in this system, your strain level begins at 0 and builds as situations become more harsh. And so strain would look like, and we could talk about strain more actually if you sustain any. So we'll deal with strain in a moment. But just know that Grit is a resource you can use. You gain more Grit through good, like, big successes. Mm-hmm. And you lose Grit down to 0, in which case you can't use it again.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now you've been equipped with way too much information. I apologize.
It's fine. I think this is an athletics thing. I think I'm using athletics to overcome this, because I think, like, I don't think it's necessarily melee, because I think I'm more like hiding behind the shield and just like going for a knee and just kind of like using my momentum to kind of knock it on its, like, to knock whomever this is on their back or like knock their leg out from under them.
Yep. Okay.
And I think my tendency to be focused would help with this. Like, it's that I'm setting a point on the horizon and I'm just going.
Awesome. So go ahead and give me a roll. And
all right.
In the system, all you need is a D20.
I've rolled a 13.
Awesome. Okay, so with a 13 against this opponent. Now, because I won't go into all the details of what I'm doing over here on my end behind the GM screen, but you've given me a couple pieces of information that really help me understand what this challenge is to you. Mm-hmm. And in this case, you're going to succeed. You whatever it is that you were aiming for, you succeed at, but you do it at the cost of 1 point of strain.
Okay.
And strain is mental, physical, or emotional. So it doesn't have to, don't think of it as an injury. It's strain builds until your threshold. And at that point, any strain received after that will cause an injury to one of your attributes. Mm-hmm. So in this case, you take 1 point of strain. So you just tick that up. Mm-hmm. You can, as part of your, now, when we resolve this, so I explain to you as the GM, I say, you succeeded, you take 1 point of strain. Mm-hmm. What does it look like? And you get to go, whatever it looks like to you.
I think what happens is it's just a car crash, right? Like, bodies collide.
we tumble, shield goes flying, we end up like on opposite sides of the room. They like knee me in the face. It's just a mess. We tumble around and up on opposite sides of the room, just in a heap.
You threw everything you had into that maneuver. Okay, so when you come back to, you can see, and also in this system, like you were able to overcome that challenge, and by narrating it, you've told me whether or not you're done with this person. Mm-hmm. Being that you didn't explicitly say that they're gone, so it's a cue to me that you want to keep going. Sure. you might want this person to be around for another scene or two. But in this case, the person is caught completely off guard, was way overconfident coming in here. They must have inflicted a pretty bad wound on the person they were chasing. And based on the sounds outside, you're still convinced that the enemy has the upper hand. You see that the person who he was chasing is on the ground in front of them, and they slide a hand axe over to you, because we'll say that in this little, when you kind of collapsed into that corner, I'm going to say that you maybe dropped your axe, or maybe didn't drop it, but they're trying to help you.
Yeah. And I'll grab the axe and like flick it into my hands, climb to my feet, dust myself off, and then like I think my shield is kind of at my feet. You know what I think it is? I don't even think I dropped my axe. I don't think I had it out, because I was kind of behind my shield in like a shield rush. So I think I pull out my other hand axe, and I'm like twirling both hand axes in my hand.
Oh, nice. Okay. And we'll say that the larger person, you could tell they're a warrior. They leap to their feet, snarling. Maybe more than a warrior. Maybe they're a berserker. You're not entirely sure. But once they're to their feet, they draw a short blade from their belt, because they didn't bother to try to find their other weapons, and they're in a position to fight. Now, this person is going to be faster than anticipated and is coming at you. So we'll say the challenge here is that this person is trying to take you out.
And I think
so. Your action.
I think my action is their knee is their weak point. Like I've cracked this, right? Like I've knocked them down. I know that the bigger they are, the harder they fall. So if they're going to run at me, I'm going to drop down and try to bury the axes in their legs to just fully like keep them from getting up as best I can.
Okay, so go ahead and give me a roll, whatever you think is again the most fitting for this.
Yeah, I'll call that a melee. And okay. I'm rolling a d20 and adding the skill listed, correct?
Correct. And you have the ability to surge if you wanted to for 2 grit, but you don't have.
Yeah, I'm gonna surge. I'm definitely gonna surge, I think, and then because I don't think any of my story aspects necessarily help me here. Okay. So I'm gonna surge, and then I've got an 8 total.
Okay, so you rolled and got an 8 total. Sorry.
Yeah, I got an 8 total.
Okay, cool. So this is a failure, and so you're going to take 2 points of strain. Right. But you get to describe it. It's still, again, it's not like you take damage to your hit points and things like that. It's so you whatever you were trying to do, which in this case was instead of like kind of defending and trying to evade the attack, you went against them. But it isn't going as well as you'd hoped. So there's an exchange, obviously, that happens here, and then we'll do one more, but with the person that slid you the axe is going to be playing a factor into it. So what does it look like?
I think I drop down and I get ready to swing the axes, and they grab me by like the throat and the shoulder, and they pick me up and just choke slam me to the ground, like just one big slam. Right on my back, right on the shield, and I'm just like, I just am like reeling, right? It was just like, I thought I was going to outmaneuver them, and they just said, no, slam you into hell.
Oh, this giant shadowy Viking is choke slams you in the center of the ring. And as you slam into the ground, their hand doesn't leave your throat. And so they're crouched over a little bit because you can tell they're going to try to finish this. But the shadowy figure that slid you the axe leaps up onto this berserker's back and is pulling and grabbing and wriggling and trying to be as menacing as possible. So now it's anything that you'd like to do.
And I think if they've got someone on their back, I am going to, with their hand on my throat, try and just like, I've got this spare hand axe. Their chest is wide open because they're trying to pull somebody off of their back. And I'm just going to ready back and throw that hand axe as hard as I can square at the middle of their chest to really just like put them down for good.
Love it. Go ahead and roll.
This is going to be, I'm going to call this, I think I'm going to call this ranged.
Okay.
Because I am throwing this axe.
There's a thrown skill too if you wanted to use that one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that.
They broke up the combat skills to really let people kind of be precise about what types they want to specialize in.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go thrown. I think my tracker path probably helps me with this. Like I'm probably, this is a hunt. This is me relying on instinct, both because like, I'm oxygen is at a premium right now, but also like I've definitely thrown an axe at something before and caught it in a moment of desperation.
Smaller targets and at farther distances.
Exactly.
This is you. You can do this.
That's a 20. That is a nat 20, baby. So that is a 22.
Wow. So you got a natural 20? Cool. What's your total? The total with your skill bonus?
22.
Awesome. Okay. So that's really good because in this to preserve the wonder of a critical. You always want if you're going to roll a d20 and you're not going to have a critical. I mean, what's the point? Come on. And so in this case, what it is there are things that the GM deals with that are like complications on top of the scene, and a critical means two things. One, what you're about to narrate in this outcome should be far more epic. We call them epic outcomes. So. Keep that in mind. And then the other thing is a complication that I had looming is no longer looming.
All right.
So in this case, you succeeded by 3 levels, which is fantastic. You're going to, you gain 2 grit.
All right.
And you take out your opponent. Or, sorry, I never like to do that. You never have to kill anyone. You overcome the challenge.
Sure.
This is sort of the knocking a chandelier on the opponent to trap them kind of thing. You could do anything you want.
I think this axe is going into this person's chest is the thing.
Yeah.
And it is just, I let it go. It perfectly finds its mark. And they kind of stumble back. The person that's on their back locks them, wraps their arms around their throat, and you watch the life just fade from their eyes as they fall forward onto the axe, burying it even deeper. And I kick the shield into my hand, and I draw my spear out. I pull my spear out with the other hand from my back, and I'm just and I crack my neck one way and I crack it the other way, and I'm just it's time to go back to battle.
Oh, so good. So good. So this a warrior on his back who's wounded but gave it his all. You look up and it's Carvin, and Carvin has your childhood friend who's been your recent bully. He has a kind of a gash, a pretty nasty wound across his face, and then a wound on his side that is not entirely visible, but that there's something there. And unarmed, Carvin's kind of struggles to his feet, and he says, "We're lost."
Nothing is lost. Nothing is ever lost. Didn't they teach you that in school? And I kick the behemoth over. I kick them onto their back. I pull out the axe. I don't even pull out the axe. I kind of kick the handle of it so that it dislodges and it kind of tumbles over towards Carvin. And I say, tear off some of this cloth. You're going to patch up this wound. You're going to be fine. We're all going to be fine. You're going to continue this fight. I'm going to go light this pyre. Is that understood?
He leans against. He picks up the. He leans against the wall behind him and slumps to the ground to where his hand could be closer to the axe because it was less taxing for him to do it that way than to bend forward. He looks up at you, just fingering the handle of the axe. Looks up at you and he says, "I cannot make this. I can't make it. Just leave me."
And I scoff and I'm like, typical. Every time I make a suggestion and I bend down and I tear some of any clothing that this warrior was wearing, like I tear some of it to try and I'm going to try and use my survival skill to make a makeshift like tourniquet or like bandages to basically patch up Carvin as best I can.
Yep.
As quickly as I can.
Yeah, you've got a challenge here, and you can. Survival is the perfect. Mm-hmm. I love that idea. And there's a little shield next to your total that's shaded in there, indicating that you have a specialization in that, which basically just you come up with that when you're creating your character is why you have it, whether it's experiences or more education or things like that. But that allows you to roll twice and take the higher roll.
All right. And I think that again, my nature quality here is probably helpful, right?
Totally.
I know how to patch things up. That is a 15 plus 5 is 20 total.
Awesome. Well, you gain another grit.
All right.
And this goes exactly as you'd like.
Yeah.
Even though you have a patient who's a little bit unruly. It's like a montage of a bunch of like quick shots of like the fabric gets torn. It's wrapped up like a cast. I slap Carvin across the face a little bit. I'm like, quit talking about how you're not going to make it. Come on. You are a soldier. More than that, you are a leader. So get out there and lead and keep these invaders, whoever they are, keep them busy until I can light the pyre. Is that understood? Yeah, he nods his head hesitantly, but he says, "Torvi, I'm sorry."
Apologies can come later. Let me do what I'm good at and get from one place to the next. Then we can have time for apologies.
Sorry.
Get out there and do your thing.
He gestures towards the door to the right that he was trying to run through. And he says, the enemy is lighter on that side. You might be able to get out.
Then that's where we go.
All right. So just a question for you. Are you taking him with you, or are you letting him stay in the outpost to deal with the enemy? I'm
letting him stay because he is a leader and these people respect him. Mm-hmm. And so plus I move better by myself. I'm not going to bring somebody who's not a tracker along. They're going to slow me down.
Gotcha. Okay. So as you head out, is there anything that you want to do to prepare before, or are you just you're already set? You have what you need.
I'm already set. I've got my hand axe. I've got my spear. I've got my shield. I'm by myself. I am in my element as best I can be. I think the thing that I want to do is get out with as little people noticing me as possible. Mm-hmm. Because I think what happens is Torvi gets to the door and starts to like crouch down and then says, "Hold. Got a better idea." And she's going to sneak to the edge of the outpost.
So I say that one time, it broke up a little bit.
I think she gets to the edge and then like crouches down and says, "Wait, I think I have a better idea." And she's going to sneak to the edge of the outpost as quickly as she can, as stealthily as she can.
Okay.
Then when she gets to the edge of the outpost, right? Like when she gets to where she can make like a hard run out of the outpost towards the pyre, that's when she's going to start a fire, get their attention, and try to like get them to give chase. Mm-hmm. Because they can't catch me in the woods. No one can.
Oh, cool. So you're going to try to thin out the numbers in the outpost battle. Oh, that's cool. I like that.
They can't catch me. I'm the best tracker our clan has ever seen. They will not get close to me before I get to that pyre.
Beautiful. So I would say I don't think I need a stealth roll from you.
Yeah.
I think what it would be more is like, I don't know, maybe survival, something like that. Because if your goal is to start a fire, I would say that to a normal person, a non-tracker who's skilled at nature and deals with this type of thing would find it difficult to light anything in this weather, in this cold, in this damp place. But you know how to do this stuff. So maybe a roll for that.
Yeah.
And then we'll get a good scene of you heading into the woods.
Yeah.
And,
I think that survival is good because I think like I'm not just trying to start a fire. I'm trying to start like what is obviously a fire that will catch their attention and something that will illuminate me, but also kind of send me into the shadows where they're like, hey, where did she go? Right? Like I want to get their attention and then immediately disappear into the shadows. And I think that survival would be good for knowing how to make that exact kind of like signal flare.
Got it. Okay, that's cool. And are you in the outpost tower that you're in now? It's the most rear-facing tower.
Yes.
This would be where the driest things would be found if you want to start something here.
Yeah, that seems like the right call. And so I'm going to use survival. I'm going to use my tracker path will definitely help me here. My first roll was a 10, and my second roll was a natural 20.
You love those. Okay, so chalk up 2 more grit.
All right. And I'm at my capacity. I've exceeded my capacity, so I'm going to spend a grit to drop my strain down by 1.
Okay, cool. I like that. So basically the with a 20 on this type of scene, and I was already going to have a narration in mind that for this other part. I think this is going to be wonderful for us to kind of narrate out together. Yeah. So I think why don't you give us the how the fire goes up, and then pause when you leave this small area.
I think what it looks like is like the battle is raging, and then like boom, there's just an explosion of like hay and dried leaves that just like erupts, like twigs and dried leaves and hay just like erupts for a moment, and I am as brightly lit as the midday sun, standing there, axe in hand, spear in hand, and I just scream out, "You want to target? You may as well go for the best." And at that moment, the fire dies down a little bit, and like the air kind of waves, the heat wavers the air a little bit, and like a burst of smoke goes up, and I'm gone. Like I'm already off running.
I love it.
Towards the pyre.
So as the smoke kind of goes down a little bit and you leap over the wall heading out, we'll say that there were several warriors, enemy warriors on the ramparts to your left that were coming towards you. The room you were in, not knowing you were there, just knowing that that's where one of their large berserkers went and hasn't come out of. As they're heading over there, they see this eruption and you standing there. They're the closest and witness it. And they come running to the edge of the ramparts as you leave. One of them swinging their axe just a little too late, and turns to the outpost center and yells, we must stop them from getting to the beacon. We must stop them now. And as the 3 of them are getting ready to jump over, I'm going to build off of your epic success there and say that there were several barrels of whale oil. In the outpost, in that part of the outpost that would be transported to the beacon, in regular, just make sure that you had the means, the fuel to light a pyre like that. And when that catches, an explosion happens again, and these 3 go flying. And as you head into the woods, anyone who'd be watching you sees this large light, causes it to look almost like you peel your shadow peels, and it's like one tracker heading into the woods becomes 20 in different directions.
Yeah, I love that.
And like a shadowy superhero who can turn into multiple images of themselves.
I love it.
You're gone.
That's fantastic.
Cool. I love that. Well, we can cut for a moment. and we'll pick up in the woods. We'll say that you know that this could be a couple minutes later. You know you're being chased, but you're pretty confident that you're not that they're not directly on your scent. And so you're in the woods, and I think just the challenge is this: can you get your way to the beacon, but in a way that is how do I put it? What's the best way to the beacon so that you could light it as quickly as possible? Because you don't know if there are enemies that already made it there.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this is awareness. I think for me, I think for the challenge for Torvi is using her skill and like knowing the area and knowing like how to navigate, which I wouldn't even know is survival so much as just being able to like pick up on details in the dark and being able to kind of like reason those out.
Cool.
I think nature and tracker probably help with this.
Okay.
And then I'm going to roll. So it's 5 plus 8 is 14.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. So that's a straight success. No strain. And so what does it look like? And you have pretty much free reign on narrating outcomes as a player. The GM really only will involve themselves in sort of helping a player understand what the outcome means, but this is a shared story. So what does it look like?
I think it looks like it's dark, like it is pitch black, right? Especially because a fire just lit up and then it went out again, so it's pitch black. Nobody's eyes are adjusted to the dark, which has helped to Torvi's advantage because they've had to reorient themselves. Oh no, there's a bright fire, now it's dark again. But the thing is, Torvi is also kind of navigating off of instinct and is like kind of just like going. The thing is, I don't think she knows the path to get to the beacon. I think she has to take it like one step at a time, right? Like I know I know the direction that I'm going, but I have to go a few feet. And so we see her like go a few feet, and then there's a rock slide, like there's some logs, and she's got to like catch herself, and she knows to like wait a second to jump into some branches and like climb along that way, and then maybe some of the people pursuing her chase after, and they like fall down that rock slide. Totally. And it's like a lot of that. It's a lot of her like step by step, not knowing that there's probably better or safer paths to go on. But it's a lot of like, well, if I go this way and I like jump these rocks in this order, I can get across this tiny little river, or I can get across this tiny little ravine, and then that will give me, and it's a lot of that. It's a lot of feeling things out and sort of taking a roundabout path.
Oh, awesome! So it's a beautiful montage of Torvi making it over obstacles, finding maybe even finding some obstacles of her own that she can set for anyone pursuing her, and then just the camera just picks up these Vikings bumbling in the dark. Yep. Obviously not trackers.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to say that as you get to a certain point, you know you're close. You're close now to the clearing where the beacon is on the side of this cliffside.
Yep.
You also know that the road, because there is a road that your clan ages ago cleared out so that it'd be easier to get that wood to the pyre and people back and forth. You just chose the most direct route. That you assume someone is on that road trying to get to the beacon faster than you could have. Now, because you had to get through all of these different obstacles, your speed wasn't as quick as you wanted to be, but you're hoping you can get there before these warriors. Yeah. Okay. You also know that there are several of the outposts of the Watch, part of your clan, would have to be at the beacon. They protect it. They keep, if there's any whatever, that's their job. But you also know that that's kind of the laziest job to have, because nothing has happened and it's middle of winter, and so you're not confident that those people would be ready for anything.
So
okay.
So sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so you find yourself in a spot where you're like, okay, I need to move quick. I'm not sure what I'm about to be up against, and I'm not sure what I'm about to find with my clan members.
So I think I'm not going to try and rely on my clan members. I don't think. I think I can maybe motivate them once the beacon is lit, but I think I'm going to have to take this on my own. I don't think I can rush it directly, because if I rush it directly, that's no better than just relying on my clan members here to protect me. I think what I've got to do is do what I've done so far. Approach it in secret. Approach it from behind in secret. Try to get to where I can light it, and then once it's lit, rally everyone around me to get ready for battle.
Awesome. Okay, so you when you make it through to a small part of the clearing where you can actually see through, we'll say, okay, I like that. We'll say that you don't see any of your fellow clan members, which is not uncommon because they tend to, wander off at times or fall asleep in places that no one will see them, and it's just you don't see any of them. You see the pyre. And as you kind of glance around, you know that the pyre always has to have these small, like almost little barrels or kegs of whale oil that would be crashed against it and then lit with a torch. The torches are there. There's like 5 torches that are lit and all usually kept lit. And there's a small fire burning that the torches are around, but it's on the other side of the clearing. You also hear that warriors are coming.
And do I see the barrels of whale oil? Are they around?
You know what? I'm going to say you don't see them.
Well, then I'm just going to have to make a run for that fire, grab a torch, and see what I can do about getting this beacon. So I think it is just same as with the Berserker's knee earlier. I'm putting my shield up, my head down, setting a point on the horizon, and just knocking, running. Any obstacles be damned.
Awesome. Okay, so because you chose to just go, you're going to get there first. You make it to where the torches are. You hear warriors. You haven't glanced back to check, but you hear that people are in pursuit of you, but they're staggered. You have a torch in hand. Is your shield on your back?
Yeah, I got it in front of me. So I kind of once I get there, I stash it on my back and grab a torch.
Sweet. Okay, cool. Yeah, just throw it around. The strap catches, and you have the torch in hand, and you're heading towards the beacon.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you get there, we'll say that the torch, you can tell you can't see any barrels around you that have this whale oil in it. But when the torch hits, you can tell that whoever was doing their job wasn't doing their job, or whoever had the job wasn't doing their job. And the furs and pelts that are kept over the pyre seem to have blown away, and it's very moist. And the torch just doesn't. You hit it against a couple areas. It's not catching, and you know that if you don't turn now, you'll be overtaken.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna throw the torch down. Grab my spear at the ready my spear and shield, and turn and be ready for battle.
Awesome. So you can tell that there's a large group, like maybe like 10 warriors with shields that are on the road facing you, but only we'll say only 3 were fast enough to give 3 left that group to pursue you. One of the things in and again, this is for anybody's game, they can do any way they want, but one of the things that I always play with is like Vikings and their tactics with the shield wall, and how just devastating they were with that tactic. So they like to group together when they can, but in this case they were chasing one person, so 3 of them left what would become a shield wall and are pursuing you. So I'm going to put this as you're going to need because you're sort of like a cornered wolf right now. I'm going to say you need 2 successes to overcome the 3 warriors coming at you. So whatever skill you think, I mean, it could be melee, it could be, it could be anything depending on how you're approaching the situation, and then figure out whichever of your story aspects might come into this. And you can also search.
Yeah, I can. I think what I'm going to do is I've got the spear, and I think I'm going to just like run, jump up, and kind of like slam the spear down at one of them. I'm going to go for a melee roll, and I think that I'm definitely going to surge. So I'm going to spend 2 grit to surge. And I would say this definitely feels like it's an opportunity to regain my honor. Like I am going to light this beacon and save my clan. And if they don't honor me now,
I was hoping
they don't
you'd
honor
say
my
that
clan
one.
now. If they don't honor me now, like to hell with them. So I'm definitely invoking that.
Exactly.
And
okay. So that's awesome. You lowered the challenge or the difficulty level of the challenge by 2 levels, which means let's see what your roll is.
That is a 9. That is a 12.
Good. Okay. So you have it's a straight success. So you have 3 enemies running at you. The first one does not expect you to turn in time. Like they're thinking they have a clean shot at your back. They are not prepared for you to turn, which is why I didn't make them another success needed. But in this case, you get 2 successes. You take no strain. So how does this look? 3 staggered opponents charging.
I turn. I think I turn. I'm going to add a detail that I turn and just immediately like. Oh yeah. I turn and immediately like swing the torch and kind of like let it go, and it flies and like catches one of them. Right. Like the first one is caught with a torch.
Awesome.
And I think they just straight go up. Right. Like they catch, and then the spear in hand. And then I pull out my spear and I run and I dive it. I plunge it through the second, and then like as I spin out, like I twirl my hand axe in my hand, and I stare down the third, and we circle each other for a moment, and like I flinch or I like tense like I'm about to strike, and I think that the third like drops shield and backs and like runs.
So good. So good. So as the one's running, we'll say, if I can add a small detail, you hit one with the torch first. Mm-hmm. You threw it, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So you threw the torch, hits them, they fall down. You hear a break, but you just keep going past. Mm-hmm. You hear something breaks. Sounds like wood. Mm-hmm. And you continue your fight. And now Torvi finds herself facing a shield wall. One enemy is running. If they win the day, this person is not living this down, this moment. But they run behind their shield wall, and about 10 shields overlap, and the large person behind them yells shield wall and advance, and they start taking short steps towards you, shields overlapping. They know they could overtake one person, but they're not risking it after what they just saw. They know that they can press you up against this pyre, and then they can start disassembling it, as taxing as that might be. But behind you, you're standing there in front of them, and behind you. And so I want to paint this scene. Yeah. You have this pyre of wood. Mm-hmm. Then you have you, and then you have this advancing shield wall. You're facing the shield wall, and all of a sudden you see your shadow grow really long in front of you, because a big light is happening behind you. Yep. Not the pyre, but a huge light. And as you turn over your shoulder, you see that the poor warrior that you hit with the torch collapsed and found one of those hidden barrels of whale fat, and is covered in this oil, and he ignites, but he's standing in between you and the pyre. And so you have this approaching shield wall, Torvi, flaming warrior, and the beacon, the pyre.
And I think what Torvi does is sees this, and like kind of like sees her shadow, turns around, sees the warrior on fire, and just like, this is Sparta, boot to the chest, not like pushes back the warrior and is like, I needed something to light this pyre, this'll do, and like kicks as hard as she can to send send her enemy back into the pyre to try and like light this thing for good or well and proper.
I don't even want to make you roll. I love that too much. I think that when you kick them and they go into the pyre and everything lights at that moment, we can have one of those sweeping scenes of the camera looking at Torvi pulling back from this clearing as the pyre lights up the entire clearing, including the warriors in front of you. They're checked at that moment because this is the thing that they were trying to avoid. They had one mission. And you can see their faces that they failed it. And Torvi, will say, is closer to the edge of this cliff overlooking the river. And as the pyre lights, it lights up the river. And you can see shadowy ships slowly and just silently creeping towards your settlement. But the hillsides start to light up. Beacon, another beacon. And the settlement itself, which is just blackness in the distance, becomes small flickers of light from torches. And you know in that moment that your clan, a strong clan, is going to be able to repel whatever's coming at them now that they've been notified.
All right.
So it's up to you. Do you want to play this out, or do you want that to be where the scene ends?
I think that might be where the scene ends, and I think that I might have the closing shot in mind, unless you have more stuff that you want to play with.
Not at all. I want. This is yours.
Yeah.
I got to see you Sparta kick a warrior who was on fire into the pyre, so I'm fine.
Yeah. So I think what happens I think the last shot is like we see the pyres light up, we see the beacons light up one by one, and the shield wall continues to encroach. And Torvi like drops her shield and smiles and looks out, and like it pans over, the camera kind of like spins and pans over all of these beacons and comes to rest on this little door of this like a little tent. And there are two women inside knitting and reading, and Torvi like throws open the door, and it's just bruised and cut up, but alive, and walks in and just says, "I'm home." And that's game.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that's game.
That's game. That's beautiful.
Fantastic. I loved it. That was awesome.
I love how you brought that montage to life in the woods. It totally embracing your tracker path.
That was good. That was really, I love that game. That was a lot of fun. Tim, thank you so much for coming on Party of One. This was a lot of fun.
Hey, thank you. It was, I loved playing with you. This was fantastic. Awesome. I can't tell you how cool it is to be playing a game with you on this show after having listened to your show for so long.
That really does. That means a lot. So thank you. I really, really means a lot. So real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you, your work, and the Kickstarter for North Sea Epilogues online?
Oh, well, you can find Kristen and me are diceupgames.com, and that's where we're putting most of our stuff. You can find us on Twitter or on Facebook at diceupgames, and you can also look for the hashtag North Sea Epilogues. Garfieldgames.com is the publisher, and you can find us on Kickstarter. But really, if you look at us on our website, we'll have all the directions pointing you where you're supposed to go. And if you want to find me on Twitter, just me, it's a GM Tim D. And otherwise, you can find I've been on several actual play podcasts that I've really enjoyed pretty regularly. Roll to Play with the GM Kent Blue, and Victory Condition Gaming Doug Shute, and I think that's pretty much it. I would want to say that we're really excited about the people that we're working with on this North Sea project. We have a couple adventure prompts that have been written. Doug Lewandowski of one of the designers of Kids on Bikes, Banana Chan of Game and a Curry, Toby Abad, and we have Epediah Ravishal.
That's a good group. So, that's a good gang right there.
Yeah, and then I'm depending on what you see on the Kickstarter, we haven't fully settled on the stretch goals, but there will likely be more contributors that as stretch goal as stretch goal additions.
That's pretty great. Well, I'm really excited about that. I can't wait to check it out. Tim.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on the show. This was a blast. And now I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me.
Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Tim for coming on to the show. That game was really, really fun. Be sure to check the show notes below for a link to the North Sea Epilogues Kickstarter. I think it's a great game. I think it's well worth your time and support, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Also, be sure to follow Tim on Twitter at GMTimD. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod, then slide over to Facebook and like the show at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. Join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. Talk to us about professional wrestling, the show, role-playing games, whatever you want to talk about. Really, whatever. I'm fine. I'm around. If you really enjoy the show, consider leaving us a nice iTunes review, a social media shout-out, or a word-of-mouth recommendation to a friend. Any of those things helps new listeners find the show, which helps us do bigger, better, and cooler things. You can also consider backing our Patreon at patreon.com/partyofonepodcast. Patreon backers get access to bonus materials, mini podcasts, and interviews, and Patreon dollars help pay for equipment fees, hosting costs, con appearances, all that kind of stuff. That's patreon.com/partyofonepodcast. If you listened to the show and you thought, God, I wish I just had another 45 minutes a week to hang out with Jeff, boy, have I got the show for you. All My Fantasy Children is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast powered by you. Every week, my best friend Eric Tanosaias and I take a listener prompt, spin it into a fantasy character, and populate a shared universe one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday at allmyfantasychildren.com. Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran, featuring the D&D. Interested in coming onto the show? Whether you are a podcaster, a game designer, a professional wrestler, a writer, actor, comedian, musician, film critic, kaiju, financial guru, or you just love a good role-playing game, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And that's it for me. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance, and as always, party on, everybody.